Hi, this is Ron Darling.
This is Skip Lockwood.
Hi, I'm Ron Swoboda of the 69 New York Mets, and you're listening to Mets Musings with Gary Mack.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Mets Musings. Well, unfortunately for the Mets, their season has come to an end. The journey has been completed and it did not end happily for the Mets. As you know, they lost to the Dodgers in 6. It went a lot further than anyone thought back in March. But it's sad nonetheless. It's, a shock. Once you make the playoffs and you start getting through the basic playoffs, you want to go all the way. You want to win. We're all fans. Even though we should be happy for what the Mets were able to accomplish this season. It was really, when you look at it, a terrific year. And that's why I waited a few days. I wanted to get the morning over with. I wanted to let it all soak in and decide what direction I wanted to go and do the show, but they got beat by a better team. Look, why did they lose? Who knows? I mean, the offense disappeared. They couldn't get the timely hit anymore. Maybe they used up all the luck that they had in some of the crazy comebacks they had in Atlanta and Milwaukee and Philadelphia, and their magic just kind of ran out. I got to be honest with you. I think they were exhausted. I think they were beat up. They were tired, and it just happens that way sometimes. They just went as far as they could go, and they had some wild games they had to come through and a lot of stressful games, and I think it all just caught up for them. The bullpen pen was stressed and just didn't perform like they had most of the season and early in the postseason. So the Mets season was over. Lindor went into a little mini slump. Alonso was, had some key hits in the postseason, but really in his final series was not that important. Alvarez was pretty much awful the whole postseason. Nimmo was fighting off an injury, and he was nowhere to be seen either offensively. So the starting pitching, I think they would just get a little burnt out and went as far as they could, and that was it. And the bullpen struggle as well. So it was a combination of everything. It was a big uh, thrill to get this far, to take this ride, and to get as far as the National League Championship Series. And let's face it, they were 2 games away from the World Series and a pennant. Just couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. They were overmatched. Better team, yeah. A more refreshed team, that's for sure. And they pack up and they go for next year now and see. Now they've got a clearer picture of what they need to do, and personnel moves and whatnot. And we'll see what the offseason brings, and we'll be here to talk about that all through the winter. But for now, it's over with the season, and I don't know about you, but I gotta say this. I'm sick of hearing about Shohei Ohtani. To me, he's a showboat. I call him Showboat Ohtani. Yeah, he's a good hitter. He's a terrific hitter, terrific ball player, but he's a DH. He didn't pitch this year. Let's see how he comes back next year with the Tommy John. Um, if he doesn't come back and he's not the same pitcher he was, is he worth the money he's getting to DH? I don't think so, but he had an historic record, and I know he'll probably be the MVP, but let's look at that for a second. MVP, most valuable player, not best player of the year. MLB needs to have another category on the same level and call it player of the year because it's not always fair. The MVP should go to a player on a team that's not expected to be where they were, that led that team to a position where nobody thought they would be. And I'm talking about Francisco Lindor. If anybody deserves the MVP, it's Lindor. The Mets were not expected to be, they said they were going to be competitive. They said they were going to shoot for a wild card. Some of the critics scoffed at them. But yet here they were. Here they were. And I think that's where the MVP should come in, and Lindor should get it over Ohtani. The Dodgers were picked to win. They were picked by some to win the World Series, so there's no big surprise. Yeah, he had a record-breaking year, historical year, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's true. All right. But the award is supposed to be MVP, most valuable player. Was he the most valuable player on the Dodgers team? I'm not so sure. He's certainly surrounded by all-stars that can protect him in the batting order. And let's look at 1986. And Mike Schmidt won the MVP in the National League for a Philadelphia Phillies team that finished, I don't know, what were they, 10 and a half games out in second place? But the reasoning was at that time, well, the Phillies wouldn't have finished second without Mike Schmidt. So he was more valuable. So shouldn't we use that same criteria this year and say the Mets wouldn't have made the wild card if it wasn't for Francisco Lindor and his heroics all year? And would the Dodgers have made the playoffs and the World Series without Showboat Ohtani? I think these are the questions that should be answered. We know what's going to happen. Ohtani is the face of the MLB now. They're plastering him everywhere. Look, they even had a commercial for the postseason or for the World Series earlier in the postseason, and it was Judge and Ohtani. They didn't even have any other players on there. And I'm sure they are just so happy that it's, and the network too, they're way happy. It's Dodgers and Yankees. They love that nonsense. I won't bother to watch. I'm not interested. I got other things to watch now. But I'm just sick of Ohtani. I just enough is enough. Well, one Met who didn't hide in the postseason, if you will, and especially in this series as well, was Mark Vientos, of all people. Mark Vientos didn't make the team out of spring training, got sent back down to the minors, came up due to an injury, and was spectacular the rest of the year. He was awesome in the playoffs. The Mets didn't lose this playoff because of Mark Vientos. I know he made a couple of bad plays in the field, yes, but he's working on it. But he more than made up that by his offense. He bettered the Mets franchise record for RBIs in a single postseason, driving in 14, and he passed Curtis Granderson, who did it was in 2015, and John Olerud, and He is also tied for the third most in a career in franchise postseason history, trailing only Eduardo Alfonso with 17 and Gary Carter with 15. And his 5 home runs puts him ahead of, listen to this, Mike Piazza, Carlos Delgado, and Rusty Staub for most homers in a single postseason by a Met. Now, Daniel Murphy holds the record with 7 home runs in the 2015 postseason. So kudos to Mark Vientos, who had a terrific postseason run. And that's great experience. It's great experience for everybody. Even Acuna getting in those few games there. Great experience. He had a couple of at bats. Didn't do so well, but he had a couple of at bats. He had a couple of plays in the field. So you can't buy that. You cannot teach performing in that kind of pressure. And anytime you can experience it, that's how you learn how to handle it. And for the Mets, they've got a taste of that this year. And they've got a taste of the postseason. And they got the taste of the celebrations. And now it's time to build on that. It's time definitely to build on that. And that's what they have to do in the offseason. They've got a slate of free agents. They're going to lose most of their pitching staff. Of course, Alonso is a free agent, and that's all going to play out as the winter goes on. Now, David Stearns addressed the press this past week and yesterday, I believe it was. And we have some clips we're going to play, but first we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back with the clips from David Stearns' press conference. It's about 5 minutes. I put together a little video, so it'll be about 5 minutes. And then we'll talk a little bit more after that. But right now, stay tuned and listen to this.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
And now here's David Stearns.
I'm also really proud of the group, the entire organization, the effort, the skill that went into getting to where we ultimately got. It certainly wasn't a straight path. It took some moments of real resilience for us to ultimately get there. And I think in some ways that made it a little bit more special and also a little bit tougher when it ultimately ended. And I think some of what we learned this year and maybe some of the identity that we were able to organically create as an organization will serve us well going forward, that we can carry it going forward and can continue to build off of what we did this year. Pete's a great Met. He was right out there right before I came in. I told him I was about to answer a lot of questions about him. He told me good luck. He's a great Met. I hope we have him back. I think we both understand this is a process, and and everyone's got their own interests. And Pete deserves to go out into the free agent market and see what's out there, and then ultimately make the best choice for him and his family. I think all of that is important. Who Pete is as a person is important. What he means to this franchise is important. Who he is as a player is also important, and what he contributes on the field. There's no magic formula to this. There's no equation that spits out what all of that is for us. And so there's judgment involved. There's evaluating the market involved. And we'll see how this process goes throughout the offseason. Mendy did a tremendous job. And we talked about this throughout the season, just the consistency that he presented himself, his ability to be the same person every day, regardless of what was going on. And that was true when he and I were by ourselves in his office talking through things, and it was true when he was out here in front of you and the cameras. It was the same person, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we've got financial flexibility. It means that pretty much the entirety of the player universe is potentially accessible to us. That's an enormous opportunity. I envision us taking advantage of that opportunity and being aggressive in certain spaces. We also have to recognize that we want to set up our organizational pattern so that we can invest in free agency, invest where we think we need to complement the club on an annual basis. So you're right. We have a lot of money coming off the books. I would expect us to spend some of that, a good portion of that, to complement our team, to improve our team heading into next year. We're also not going to do anything that hamstrings us in future years and prevents us from continually adding, supplementing to our core group. With both those guys, they kind of both battled through the worst of it while playing and ended the season in a pretty good spot. Brandon was moving pretty well the last couple games. Francisco said he felt mostly normal by the last game. So both those guys are in good shape heading into the offseason. And this is a normal offseason, and that was important for us to get to for him. This is a normal offseason. And a very strange year for Senga, lots of stops and starts, but having a normal offseason is important, and then getting him to a place where we're going to have a normal spring training is also important. And well from his PRP, so far all the results are going well. I think we're looking at kind of getting him off a mound some point in November would be my best guess, and if that goes well, he moves into a pretty normal offseason. And yeah, I don't know that I'm ready to commit to anyone firmly holding down a roster spot at this point, but Nooney had a great year and would certainly be a welcome addition to the pen. Yeah, I think the great thing about Jeff is he can fit in a variety of places. It's a left-handed bat that can play a bunch of different spots around the field, can play them all at kind of an average or above average level. And that's an exciting piece. So he's the type of guy that makes roster construction a little bit easier because he can fit in a variety of places.
Thank you very much, David.
Thanks.
Okay, and we're back, and I hope you enjoyed those clips from David Stern, courtesy of SNY, and the Mets have got some things that they got to handle in the offseason, and he's excited to get to work on that. They are settled this year as far as they don't have to look for a manager. They may want to go out and get a general manager. That remains to be seen, but that's not a priority right now. So the manager is in place. I would imagine for the most part, the coaching staff will be in place, will remain and be in place. The main thing is building a pitching staff and a bullpen, but they have some they have some bases there. They have a core. Senga will be back. You heard him speak about that. It should be a normal off season now that he threw in the postseason, and got a taste of performing again, and that's big because now he could just go into the postseason, the off season, like he would do normally. Same thing he says with Nunez. If they can get him on the mound in November, he can have a relatively off season, and that's going to be a big boost to the bullpen. Um, they will add to the bullpen, I'm sure. They will keep some of the guys. I think they would probably like to keep Stanek. I would like to keep Stanek, I think, because of his ability to close. He's got a real bulldog attitude, and it gives them a change from Diaz. Maitan, I'm not sure. I think he's here on an option now. Whether or not it's a team or a player option, I'm not sure. But I think he just ran out of gas, so they may want to hold on to him as well. Other guys we'll see. They'll be back next year. You'll have Reed Foley back. Maybe they make McGill a swing man. He can pitch out of the bullpen, be the long man. Sort of like the role that Hauser had at the beginning of this season, or in the middle of the season, I should say, after he struggled. Something along that lines. We'll be discussing this all winter. Of course, the big thing is, will they sign Alonso? Will they go after Soto? Will they sign Soto? Soto's going to be looking for about, they say, 600 million a year for like 10 years. Now, he's young enough where the 10 years doesn't necessarily scare you as much as it would, say, a Pete Alonso, because he's going to be 30. So I think Soto is like 25 or 26. So the 10 years isn't awful. He seems like he's pretty durable so far. 60 million a year. Now, I know I'm sick sick and tired of talking about Otani, but um, you may want to look at Otani and make the contract that way. He actually gets paid about 20 million a year. He's getting 700 million for 10 years. He gets paid, I believe it is 20 million a year, which counts on the payroll for accounting per whatever it is for the union and baseball standards. It's counted like about 46 million, but he's gonna get paid until 2042, I believe the contract was. So he's got deferred payments out that long. Um, Mets may want to do that, and I know people, make fun of the Bobby Bonilla deal, and he still gets $1 million every year. But that was a good deal at the time. That was the way to do the deal at the time, and it's the way to do it now. Because then it allows you to sign a guy like Soto, maybe. And then, yes, you have to pay him way out there, but it doesn't hurt. You can sign other guys around him to build your team. And as David Stern talked about, they have some financial flexibility this year. So I'm sure they're going to look at all those options. And that's kind of the stuff that's going to be all year. Can they take him away from you? Will he be willing to leave the Bronx and come to the Mets? He may. I mean, he grew up, you might say, in the NL East. He may want to come home, if you will, to the NL East and do it now. Now's his chance. But we'll see what happens with that. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. I think I'm going to take a couple of weeks off, and not really too much happening unless something breaks. But you won't hear much until after the World Series anyway. So, please subscribe and like and follow whatever the app that you're using calls for. This way, you'll always know when there's a new episode of Mets Musings online, and you get to listen to it or watch it if you wish to. So until next time. Oh, we've got a big election coming up, so go vote. I don't care who, just go out and vote. Do your civic pride. All right. Um, Hopefully we'll hear something. Somebody will sign or something. We'll talk to you again before the next big holiday. But anyway, until next time, remember, keep the faith, stay optimistic, and let's go Mets. I'm Gary Mack. I'll see you next time on another edition of Mets Musings.